So now they're actually about to head out on this operation. About 50 meters short of the ford of the stream, Killigan doglegged to the west and brought us up on the trail. The heavy labor in the bush brought beads of sweat to my forehead, and I concentrated on our present movement, leaving thoughts of the night operation for later. We were soon in the treacherous position of doubling back on a previously used route, always dangerous tactic. For a second, I considered yelling at Killigan to get off the trail, but we were so close to the ford that by the time we maneuvered off the trail, we would have been at the crossing site. As Killigan moved ahead in his stealthy glide, I saw him freeze momentarily and then glance to his left directly into a bush overlooking the trail. I knew in an instant that we were in imminent danger, for Killigan never made abrupt moves except at the moment of conflict. Killigan turned back to us, his face contorting as if to shout a warning. I yelled ambush and dove to my left. Killigan took a grenade blast in the face at point-blank range. At the same time, Sergeant James went down with a bullet in his shoulder. The enemy was spraying us from a position across the rice paddy. Killigan had hit a command-detonated booby trap. I pressed my face into the dirt as bullets whined over my outstretched body. I calculated that at best, there were only 4 of us were left. I peeked out from under my helmet to see James struggling to get off the trail, the red blotch widening in his dark green fatigues. He was moving not into the bushes, but toward Killigan, who was lying face down in the paddy where the blast had knocked him, his blood turning the yellowish water red. Within minutes, if he were still alive, Killigan would drown. So they get Killigan out of that situation. They get back to their base. They go back again to do the ambush. They're hit again on the ambush. They evacuate a guy. They move again. And now they're in the final moment where they are going to do this big ambush as part of the company. So this is kind of what this last section of the book is leading to. It is morning, and so they're actually doing their final movement into the ambush position. It is morning, and there is a grimness in the drizzling air. Silent figures move to the west, shoulders bent under equipment loads, buckles taped for silence, camouflage paint smeared on taut faces. Ghouls in the night. Young boys, really. From places like Valdosta, San Diego, Boulder, Madison, Portland. Out to kill Asian boys who are out to kill them. The gears of war grind together unrelentingly. Mechanisms in motion that will catch up human flesh as they mesh. Societies clash, politicians deal, diplomats debate, young men struggle to the death. Tomorrow or the next day, mothers will receive the news and cry. But nothing will stop the morning's killings. They finally get to their ambush site, and now the ambush is about to happen. Simultaneously, another group of enemy walks into the third ambush site. It is tripped, and all the enemy are killed. The first group of 3 hears the melee and panics. One darts back. Nan, the old scout, catches him with a round in the side. He falls, and the old man finishes him with 2 rounds in the head. 2 of the enemy scramble through Sergeant Dunn's position and are hit. One falls dead. The other scampers into the brush. Don pursues. The wounded enemy ducks into a hole in the ground. Obviously he is familiar with the territory. In Vietnamese, Dunn yells for him to come out. There is no reply. Dunn yells again. Bullets spray out of the hole. Dunn lobs a grenade. Dirt, leaves, and flesh fly out of the opening in front of the blast. Dunn throws a second grenade. A death rattle rasps from the hole. Sergeant Dunn looks around for the newest soldier. Spotting an 18-year-old, he sends him in, a safe way to harden the youngster toward the events in store for him during the year to come. The youth emerges, dragging the Viet Cong behind him. It's a gruesome sight. The man's face, nose, mouth, eyes are gone. Air is sucked in and out of the hole where the nostrils used to connect, the jelly-like mess rising and falling in bubbles. Wounds gape everywhere on his body. There is nothing we can do for him. It would be inhumane to prolong his agony. So they accomplish that ambush, and they're continuing to press the enemy. But something that McDonough didn't count on, something that he couldn't have predicted or that he failed to predict. Back to the book. But I underestimated the ruthlessness of our enemy, and I failed to realize the extent to which political ideology can displace human morality. It was a major oversight, and it cost us the village of Truong Lam. And Truong Lam is the village that they were actually, their perimeter was next to this whole time. And I should have gone over that right in the beginning. But Truong Lam is the village that they were there to protect. They were there to protect these villagers and keep them safe and keep the Viet Cong and the communists out of the area. So they're sitting in their perimeter one night. You know, they're literally just meters from the village. And that's where this whole story is taking place. And as they're sitting there, we'll go to the book. The first explosion ripped one of the huts apart in a blaze of brilliant orange and yellow flame. Another deafening explosion, then another rip through the air, punctuated by the staccato clatter of automatic weapons. We braced, trying to pinpoint the direction of the attack. "My God," I exclaimed to no one in particular. "They're hitting the village." It would be a butchery. The Viet Cong had penetrated the eastern end of the village and were moving from thatch hut to thatch hut, throwing satchel charges inside and shooting down anything that moved. "Sergeant Palamon, leave back 3rd Squad and come with me. We're counterattacking into the village in 2 minutes." They dashed for the village. We dashed for the village as the flames burst upward. The scene revealed before us was ghastly. A mother ran by me with her decapitated baby, her own left arm hanging by a strip of flesh. 2 Viet Cong stood behind her trying to shoot them down. In cold rage, I fired into their faces, their heads collapsing into a pulpy mush. 2 young girls came running at me, tears of pain streaming from their eyes. At a glance, I could see that both had been disfigured by shrapnel. The Viet Cong had their mission, kill as many villagers as quickly as possible, and they were doing it well. But they didn't expect our sudden rush upon them at point-blank range. From somewhere in the smoke and fire, a woman emerged with her young son. She thrust the little boy at me, begging for help in Vietnamese. The boy was folded completely in half at the stomach, a deep wound across the small of his back, allowing his fat little body to be creased as neatly as a piece of cardboard. Surely he was dead. I looked into the mother's eyes and patted her on the head. "Later," I said. "I'll help you later." We pressed the attack back to the edge of the village. Almost a fourth of it was now burning. One more American fell with a chest wound and collapsed his lung. We broke the back of the attack. VC bodies laid sprawled on the wire through which they could not withdraw. The dead and dying lay everywhere amid the burning huts. From the glare of the roaring flames, I could see dead and wounded Vietnamese laying in twisted piles. Already the older women had begun their pitiful wails of mourning, shrieking and tearing at their hair and faces. Smoke filled the air, but it could not cover the acrid smell of death that filled my nostrils. Children searched for their missing elders or huddled in groups, groping at each other for comfort, their eyes wide in terror. A mother rocked her one-legged baby to her breast, his lifeless eyes undisturbed by the bright flames silhouetting them both. The worst had happened. The enemy had struck directly against the village and had most assuredly killed and wounded many of their own families. It was unbelievable, but it had been done. I knew that Truong Lam had been a defeat. Like the entire American system in Vietnam, we had fought a limited military war with constrained objectives. The enemy had fought a total political war with no preordained restrictions. We were doomed from the outset. We were the focus of the Viet Cong attacks because we kept the village alive. If we died, so would the village. But even at that, we were the indirect objective. The village was the direct objective. If the villages were destroyed, then there would be no village. But only now did I understand that kind of logic. It had not occurred to me that the enemy could take such a step. To hit the village would ensure the wounding and killing of their own kin. In a battle within the confines of the village itself, there could be no discrimination among family, communist sympathizers, and government loyalists. Every day I saw the children of the village. They were like all children, cute, endearing, growing, with the emotional and physical needs of children the world over. I couldn't hurt them. It was unthinkable. The possibility was so barbaric that it was alien to my mind. But my mind was not the mind of the enemy. Though I had tried to understand them, even to think like them, if only to defeat them, I had fallen short. For a few more days, we continued to patrol the area. It was a bureaucratic gesture, a mere continuance of what we had been doing for so long. I kept to myself my own recognition of the emptiness of our work. It was essential for the men to be convinced of the importance of their mission. Truong Lam was no more. But leadership must always be positive. So he wasn't really expecting that the VC would come in and just slaughter everyone in the village, or as many people as they could. Unbelievable savagery.